Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining and watching this presentation, which I'm presenting on behalf of the Animal Welfare Advocacy Group on animal welfare. This is our introduction to animal welfare to make the viewer aware of what it's all about and how it impacts us and society. Okay, so I am Paul Cadogan. I am a veterinarian and I'll be giving you this presentation today. Okay, what are we going to be looking at? We're going to be going through what animal welfare is. We're going to define both animal welfare and animal rights and how they are similar or different, why animal welfare is important. We're going to introduce the concepts of One Health and One Welfare. We're going to look at the five domains of animal welfare, also called the five freedoms. We're going to look at animal welfare and its impact on public health. We'll look at animal welfare and our environment, the human-animal bond, what's neglect and cruelty, and we'll look at the situation here in Jamaica. So here we go. What is animal welfare? Well, according to the World Organization for Animal Health, WOA, it has this terrestrial code, which is a huge book that covers all aspects of animal management. Welfare is defined as the physical and mental state of an animal in relation to the conditions in which it lives and dies, right? So the usual focus is therefore the quality of life it experiences under human care, with the responsibility of humans to provide for the animal's needs. So that can be anything from our pets to our livestock to our working animals, etc. Um, so the goal is to ensure that the treatment of animals is humane, and we want to mitigate against unnecessary suffering. So for these animals that are under our control. Um, and this includes wildlife and conservation. Wildlife might not necessarily be under direct control, but we do influence how wildlife survives based on our encroachment into their environments, right? So we'll see a bit more about that later. But so we have formal standards and ethical considerations guiding the care and conditions for different species. Every animal is different, may have different needs, right? So these may be found in WOA's terrestrial code. And if you want to look at that document, you can find it on WOA's website, woa.org. All right, so moving on. Now, animal welfare and animal rights, there are persons who might use these terms interchangeably, and really and truly, they are not interchangeable. They are significantly different. So, animal welfare allows for the human use of animals, but that should be under improved and humane conditions, focusing on preventing suffering and ensuring basic needs are met, like the five freedoms or five domains, as it's called otherwise. Whereas animal rights advocates for the abolition of all animal exploitation for us humans and believes that animals should not be used for food, for clothing, for research, for entertainment, for anything, advocating for their intrinsic right to liberty and life free from human interference. So, at the extreme level, some animal rights persons may say that you should not have pets, no dogs or cats or pet birds or rabbits or anything like that. These animals should be out there on their own, right? So, the core difference lies in whether animals are viewed as property, as our um, our domain, right? That can be used humanely. And we deal with them, as we'll go into during this presentation on the welfare side, or as beings with fundamental rights, just like human rights, that should not be used by humans at all. Right? So that's the difference between animal welfare and animal rights. Now, why is animal welfare important? Well, first, animals are sentient beings. right? So good welfare practices are essential for their well-being and productivity for public health and environmental sustainability. So what is sentience? Sentient beings are capable of experiencing pain. We know that it's like what we are able to experience. They have emotions, we have needs, and so well-being is an ethical consideration. So you wouldn't just say, okay, because it's an animal, it doesn't matter if it's injured or hurt or if it's starving or whatever. Because it's just an animal, it doesn't matter. But it does matter because they are feeling just like we are feeling. And if we are dealing with them properly, that means we are expressing our humanity, our humaneness, right? So that's our responsibility and compassion, recognizing that they have an intrinsic value because they are sentient beings. And this enriches our own humanity. So it improves us, as we'll see in a little while as we go along with One Welfare, right? So for biodiversity and ecosystems, healthy animals in wild habitats are crucial for maintaining the ecological balance. You have the predator animals, you have the prey animals, you have the animals that clean up, you have, so they help to control the plants feed them as provide oxygen and shelter, that kind of thing. So the balance of an ecosystem that impacts us. We need those ecosystems as ecosystem services in order for us to survive too in the whole environment of our planet, right? We need agriculture in order to survive as well. We need food. So we have animals that are serving us for food purposes. So we need those good animal welfare practices to make agriculture sustainable, and well cared for animals are more productive. So um, it goes without saying that you need healthy, happy animals. You get the best producing production out of these animals. So farmers' livelihood, their bottom line is better, right? For health, good animal welfare practices contribute to better overall health because if animals are happy and well fed and well sheltered, they're not stressed, they're going to be healthier, more resistant to disease. So you're going to have reduced disease and more well-being for us humans, right? For our livelihoods, for our food security, diseases that animals can transmit to us. Okay, so we move on to One Health because we're talking about animals, we're talking about their sentience and how we have to treat them in a good way because it helps us. And that's because it helps us be more healthy because our human population and our well-being and health does not exist in isolation, right? You have the Ministry of Health that deals with human health, but it cannot be unless everything else is healthy. So our health is completely linked to the health of animals, to the health of plants, and to our environment. It should be obvious. So this is the paradigm of One Health. Human health, animal health, plant health, environmental health, all intimately tied together because one improves the other. Each one is interlinked. Okay, so here is the official definition of One Health. It is an integrated, unifying approach that aims to sustainably balance and optimize the health of people, animals, and ecosystems, recognizing that the health of humans, domestic and wild animals, plants, and the wider environment, which includes those ecosystems, are closely linked and interdependent. Right? This approach mobilizes multiple sectors, disciplines, and communities at varying levels of society, whether locally or even globally, to work together to foster well-being and tackle threats to health and ecosystems. So that means, your medical doctors, your veterinarians, your um, environmental scientists, your biologists, your um, social scientists, everybody who has a stake or has expertise in various aspects of health and well-being is needed. All of them are needed to work together in order for the best outcomes. So this will address the collective need for clean water, energy, and air, safe and nutritious food, taking action on climate change, big one, and contributing to sustainable development. Now, this definition came from the One Health high-level expert panel, because the definition of One Health has kind of evolved over the years, but the basis remains the same. Human, animal, plant, environment, all interlinked in order for you to have a good health outcome for all. And there's also the paradigm of one welfare, that animal welfare, biodiversity, and the environment are linked to human well-being. And this is incontrovertible. We cannot exist and survive on our own. And we have to ensure that everything else is good so we can be good. So under one welfare, you have animal welfare, you have human well-being, and you have environmental conservation. And under that umbrella, you have the possibilities for, working on poverty, giving local and community support. Animal and human abuse, the link between them is also a big one. You want improved life chances for everybody. You have to deal with socio-economical issues, and all leading to sustainability. So you can pause the presentation and look at more of the smaller items here under this slide. But just to mention a few: animal abuse and human abuse. Abuse of animals, that same person might abuse a child. Gangs and dangerous dogs. You have the dog fighting, you have the criminal activity, and also the ability to rehabilitate those who may have been wrongdoers. But using, the whole thing of the human-animal bond, they're working with animals, and it turns their life around, makes their outlook better. So there are so many things. We can't get into all of them now for time, but anyway, that's how it is. And with the outcomes you want from one welfare, you want a reduction in animal and human abuse, you want more efficient protections, you want improved life chances, you want improved animal welfare, improved food safety, improved farming productivity, because we need food security and resilience. And a common thread through getting all of that is improved animal welfare, addressing our social problems, poverty, and community support, increased biodiversity, and all of this leads to improved human well-being. And just to underline that improving the attitudes and behavior of people in relation to animals can lead to improved attitudes and behavior of people in relation to other people. So animal abuse, an animal abuser can very easily become a human abuser, if not being both at the same time. So if you have people who value animals more, who learn to be more appreciative and more supportive and more kind towards animals, it's likely that they're going to be the same towards people too. So the result, a kinder, gentler society, which is what we want here in Jamaica. So what are the 5 domains of animal welfare? These are the 5 areas put forward by the World Organization for Animal Health, that they're also called the 5 freedoms, and is advocated for all animals, domestic and wild. So these are freedom from thirst and hunger by ready access to fresh water and a diet to maintain full health and vigor. Freedom from discomfort by providing an appropriate environment, including shelter and a comfortable resting area. So you can't have a pig pen that's in the blazing sun that doesn't provide shelter for the pig, because it's going to make the pig uncomfortable. You want the pig to be comfortable, so it should be a nice, clean environment, well shaded, should have food and water. Freedom from pain, injury, and disease by prevention or rapid diagnosis of treatment. That means access to veterinary care. The animal has a problem, you don't just leave it to suffer and die. You seek veterinary care, right? Or seek some sort of treatment that can improve that. Freedom to express normal behavior by providing sufficient space, proper facilities, and in most cases, company of the animal's own kind. And of course, that has some limits on it, because when you say freedom to express normal behavior, if you have dogs and cats that are out there, and these are pet animals that are out there breeding uncontrollably, that has a negative impact on society. So we want to control that. So spay and neuter does not eliminate the freedom to express normal behavior. That what you're looking at is for the animal to move around, for it to vocalize if it wants to, for it to be able to get up and lie down, for it to be able to interact with other animals, do what it normally does, right? Freedom from fear and distress by ensuring conditions and treatment which avoid mental suffering. So, for example, in the harvesting of animals for food, the whole process of slaughter has to be made to be as humane as possible to reduce that mental suffering, because we're going to kill these animals, but it can be done humanely. It should be done humanely. If it is not, you are violating one of these 5 domains. Okay? So, how does animal welfare impact some of the other areas that we might be concerned about in society? So, animal welfare and public health. So a good state of animal welfare keeps our animals in good physical shape, reducing their susceptibility to disease and illness, right? Now, diseases such as zoonotic diseases, which are those diseases that can infect humans from an animal source, are very important. You want to reduce those. You want to reduce the diseases that animals share among themselves, because, again, that is going to cause problems with production animals and impact our food safety and security, right? So attention paid to animals and their health ensures that illnesses are detected early, making veterinary care easier. Now, here's a couple of examples that some people you may not think about. You have dogs in your premises, in your yard, they're around in the society. Right? They can be infected with hookworms and roundworms. These can infect humans, and young children are very susceptible. So if you give your dog some more medicine regularly, you reduce or eliminate that risk. So again, there you see animal welfare, animal health issue is helping our health, right? Doesn't mean you mustn't have the animals around, because remember, you can get diseases from people too. Are you going to not have people around because you can get infected by them? So same applies to animals. Leptospirosis is a huge issue because it infects people. Rats can spread it. It can infect all our domestic animals, except maybe cats. And can be spread out there in the environment. So good animal welfare, you get your dogs vaccinated, rodent control, you keep your farm animals feed clean so they don't get infected. That helps us, right? So good animal welfare, improve public health. Now, our ecosystems and environment, right? Our wildlife is part of the ecosystems that are around us. And the ecosystems are, the functioning natural environment, right? Whether on land or in the sea, they are part of nature's balance. So you need to protect them to maintain the ecosystem function, because everything has a niche in there. Jam crows are important to ecosystems because they are going to clean up the dead material, the dead animals. They're going to clean them up, which helps to clean up the environment and helps to recycle the materials, right? So if you harm these wildlife, disrupt their populations, it can interfere with our ecosystem services and the benefits we get from them. So say crocodiles. Crocodiles are endangered. You kill them out, you're going to have an explosion in the fish or the other animals that they eat in the mangroves in the sea. And when that balance goes out, they're going to it causes up imbalance of something else, and it just cascades and things start to fall apart. So a healthy ecosystem is one where all the various species are working together in the environment to keep things going. You make that ecosystem sick, just like when you get sick as a person, and things can fall apart, just like you get sick and you can, be out of it for who knows how long until you can get better. Or if you don't get better, you can die. And that is the same thing that can happen in an ecosystem, right? Now, In this situation, in our local situation, this does not really include invasive species or dangerous disease-carrying pests, but even they should be managed as humanely as possible, right? So invasive species are those that don't belong here, that were introduced here, and then they spread and they can cause imbalances in our ecosystems. So the area of animal trafficking, which is one of the, you know, significant criminal enterprises. You have drugs, you have guns, you have human trafficking, you have animal trafficking too. And these bring most often wildlife, into our situation. The person make big money, and these animals are here, they escape, they start to breed, and then we have a species invasion. So these things, we have to keep it all in balance, right? Now, even stray animals, stray and semi-feral or feral pet animals, dogs and cats, and these animals go out there because it's a result of poor care and poor welfare practices. You're not keeping them under control. You're not treating them well. You throw them away. They go out and scrounge and to fend for themselves. And it can do harm to our ecosystems and the environment. They can transmit diseases. They engage in predatory behavior. Or feral cats that are out there, they're killing our birds. Some birds are, the populations are down. The cats are eating them. And even our endemic Jamaican iguana, they have the Head Start program trying to maintain their population. It's the iguana only found in Jamaica. And guess what? The dogs and cats are killing the baby iguanas that are released. So it's a problem. And look at stray cattle and horses out there on the roads. They can cause a danger to motorists, and it can cause injury and death to people and to themselves as well. Horrendous injuries when they are hit by vehicles. And then people suffer as well. So better care of these animals results in a better situation for us people. Okay, so moving on to the human-animal bond, and this is something that we need to be cognizant of and sensitive to, is that, well, we humans, we have been dependent on other animal species since we emerged as a species, depend on them for food, for clothing, transportation, and companionship. And this companionship, this predilection we have for interaction with animals of all kinds, that's where we get this massive pet industry from. So food security, pest control, transport, and work are a number of services that domestic animals provide. But when it comes to our emotional well-being and health, companionship can have a very, very significant, if not the greatest impact. Yeah, so let's look at some of those. This is called the pet effect. So you have a pet, which is a living creature that simply wants to be around you, regardless of who you are. That decreases loneliness. You have company, right? Other people not around, you have your pet, you have company. And that increases your self-worth. You have a living creature that depends on you for its well-being, and you care about it, it cares about you. It helps bring you up, right? And then that physical interaction, the touch, when you pet animals, when you hold them, when you stroke them, it impacts your well-being. It gives you pleasure. Just like the pet is enjoying being petted, you enjoy petting the animal, you enjoy how it feels, right? And that can significantly impact your health and well-being. And here are some of the ways. Just having a pet, people who have pets and interact with pets, their blood pressure tends to be lower. They have less heart disease because their stress level is lower. That interaction with the pet reduces stress. So it improves your cardiovascular health. It improves your mental health. People who have depression, a pet can help bring them around, bring them back up, because it increases their self-worth, having this unconditional love from an animal, right? The interaction with pets can help people with other significant mental diseases, like people who have post-traumatic stress disorder. Having a pet and interacting with a pet helps improve that. For small children, interacting with pets reduces their chances of developing allergies later on. Not the other way around, as many people think that you want to keep the puppy or the cat away from the little baby because it will make them sick. No, being exposed to the pet's allergens, or not allergens, they're antigens at that very early stage, make the immune system more accommodating to them so you don't overreact when you're exposed later on. If you have a pet and a dog and you want to go out and walk your dog, you go out and walk your dog, and you have an inside dog and you want to take them out and walk, that gives you exercise. So having a pet improves exercise, reduces obesity, can reduce obesity, improve fitness, right? And of course, the situation with autism, a lot of children are developing autism these days. Interaction with animals, not just pets, even horses, um, can significantly improve the well-being of these children. So the pet effect is huge, and you can read up more on it at the Human Animal Bond Research Institute's website, habri.org. Okay, so what we see, what we're seeing here in Jamaica now, even here in Jamaica, is more and more people are seeing pets as part of their family. The loss of a pet can cause a state of mourning similar to that felt when you lose a human loved one. It causes real distress. And I mean, in my practice, I have seen it. Somebody loses their animal, the animal has to be put to sleep or it dies because of whatever illness, and the person can be devastated, bawling, crying. And you have to be sensitive to, to that and be empathetic. You have to realize that even when animals are harmed or lost due to an act of cruelty, that the people who have lost that pet or that animal, they need to be treated with sensitivity and empathy because they are going through the process of mourning, just like you would with somebody who has lost a loved one. Right? So it's something you have to be cognizant of. Somebody comes to say that their animal has been killed by somebody and they're all upset. You don't just brush it off. You have to say, oh gosh, I'm sorry to hear that. And you try to help them as much as possible. Okay. So what are neglect? What is neglect and what is cruelty? Now, neglect, which is extremely common, is the failure to provide an animal with basic necessities. You're depriving this animal of its five domains of welfare: food, water, shelter, veterinary care. So an animal that is not being fed, that animal is going to suffer. You are being negligent if you don't. You are responsible for the animal because it's in your care. You need to provide for the animal. If you can't provide for the animal, you should not have it in your care. You should not just leave it to suffer. Now, cruelty is a broad term that encompasses both neglect, and intentional acts of harm, such as beating, mutilating, or torturing an animal. And this happens so often here in Jamaica. I have the photo here of a dog that was chopped in its face. I had a dog come into the clinic that the two back legs were chopped out right down to the bone. The animal could never not stand up again, or the nerve severed, or the muscle severed. You know, for what the animal had bled out. The animal was close to dying, and I had to put it to sleep, in order to alleviate that suffering. Right? Neglect may result from ignorance because people just don't know, they don't understand, and so education can correct that and make people do better. But intentional cruelty, that is malicious, inflicting suffering or death, and that also needs education, but it also needs penalties and enforceable penalties that mean something. Because, as I said before, intentional cruelty to an animal can lead to intentional cruelty to a human. Okay? So, here in Jamaica, unfortunately, we don't have a good track record in animal welfare over the years, although things have been improving, and neglect and intentional acts of cruelty are far too common. And this has had a negative impact for us because we depend on tourism. That's one of the linchpins of our economy. But tourists come here and see the poor state of animal welfare. And for many of them, it's extremely disturbing. And some of them have said they don't want to come back here because of that. So we want a better tourist industry. we need to address the animal welfare situation. Now, our Cruelty to Animals Act, it covers some of the bases, yes, but it's really, really outdated. It has not been properly dealt with, and the penalties are very meager by today's standards. Right? So that needs to be addressed. Although one bright spark here is that our Wildlife Protection Act has been updated, was updated this year in 2025, and the penalties for violations have been drastically increased. So, the enforcement is what is needed now for people to understand that, harming our wildlife is a serious matter. So the Animal Welfare Advocacy Group, we are lobbying for change. We'd love to see an animal welfare law rather than just a cruelty to animals law. But we know that these things take time, and so we're working on it. We're lobbying, we're having discussions with the government, etc., to try and get things moving forward. So, in closing, I have to say that good animal welfare has a vital role to play in society. Positive impact on the health and well-being of us humans, improving livelihoods and lifestyles. For wildlife, it helps maintain the ecosystems and the services they provide for our survival, and it can help produce a kinder and gentler society. So let us support good animal welfare in our country moving forward. And with that, I thank you very much for your attention. And this presentation has been brought to you by the Animal Welfare Advocacy Group. I am Dr. Paul Cadogan. Thank you for watching.